Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, nice to see you again today. I'm so sorry for postponing our writing class this week, yeah. Inshallah I feel better and we can continue our learning process here. So right now we're going to discuss about English for academic communication, focusing on writing. And again, here we are discussing about IELTS writing. As we have planned before that for today's meeting, we are going to learn about writing about graphs and tables. Before we do the practical one about writing about graphs and table, I'm about to give you an overview about this term. Please check this out. Okay, we need to know what is the purpose of graphs and table. Here, let's see. The first one is to make it easier to understand the concept by using a visual rather than by just using words. You know that when we are looking at the graphs or table, it will be easier for us to know about the data, to understand better about the contents of the paragraph. When you are reading a paragraph, then you need a longer time to read the sentences and then to analyze the numbers there. But in case you have a graph or table with you, you can directly see the data. So it makes you easier to understand the concept. The second one is to provide more exact details than is desirable in the text. And then how about the purpose of writing about graphs and tables in IELTS reading? The first one is to draw attention to the most important aspects of the information shown in the graphs or table. Here, so attention to the most important aspects. So later on, we are about focusing to like the significance number and then the important number there. Next, to expand on what is in the graphs or table, sometimes by giving additional explanation about the reason, etc. So for this one in the bracket, yeah, by giving additional explanation, it's an optional. If you have quite valid and true information about that, you can add it to your writings. But in case you are not really sure about the information, you better not to include that additional explanation in your writing. This is the example of a graph. We have some bars here, yeah. So it is about the average annual urban growth rates. You can see from this table that we have some continents here, yeah. Africa, Asia, Europe, Latin America, and North America. And this one, it shows the percentage. Okay, and you have another information here about the year. Okay, so you have 3 periods of year here, and you have the number here, and also you have the continents here. It is very important for you to look carefully at the tables or the graphs so you don't miss any single information there. I would like to show you an example of writing about this graph, yeah. See here, this paragraph consists of quite long writings, yeah. It has several sentences, and if you read this one, it is actually simply only describe, okay, simply only describe. It starts from Africa here. Africa had about 5% average annual urban growth rate in 1970 and over 4% average annual blah blah blah, and then it continued by explaining about Asia and then Europe and then what is it, Latin America, and the last is about North America. So if you see this writing, it is not an example of good writing in IELTS. Because of what? Because what you are describing in this writing is exactly the same what is presented in the graphs above. So people don't need to read your paragraph anymore because it is exactly the same. Even they can simpler by directly look at the graph. So it is not the example of a good writing in IELTS because you only simply describe each part of the graphs itself. Let's see the second one here. Looking at the graphs, we can see that urban growth has happened in all 5 continents since 1970 and that it is expected to continue right up to 2025. Blah blah blah. Okay, and then here you have such kind of additional information, like North America show less increase probably because they already started being more urbanized. In developing countries, many people from the countryside are attracted to the cities to look for work and better opportunities in health and education, but this rapid urbanization is causing many problems and needs to be controlled. This is also not really a good example of IELTS writing because of what? Because you explain more about the additional information and you don't elaborate about what is the content of the graph itself, but you added too many additional information based on your opinion or based on your background knowledge. While you are asked to describe about the graphs, not to share your opinion about these graphs. That's the point. Let's see the next one. This is quite a good example of writing IELTS. You can see here, it gives us quite equal information about the graphs. Let's read it. The graph shows that since 1970 there has been considerable urban growth in all 5 continents presented, and that this trend is expected to continue at least until 2025. However, the rate for each continent has not been the same. This is the point, The rate for each continent has not been the same. The developing countries of Africa, Asia, and Latin America experienced the most dramatic growth rates in 1975, with Africa having around 5% per annum, Latin America just over 4%, and Asia over 3%. In 1995, these rates decreased just to over 4% in Africa and down to about 2% for Latin America, but Asia remains the same. This growth rate is expected to decrease by about 1% for all 3 continents by the year 2025. Meanwhile, North America is expected to maintain its growth rate of 1% per annum over the entire period, while Europe, having started the period at about 1.5% growth rate, is expected to reduce this only to about 0.2% by 2025. Okay, so if you compare this third paragraph with the 2 previous one, it gives us a really good description, and this paragraph also use various expressions in it. Okay, it starts from stating about the urban growth in all 5 continents, and then it can tell us about what happens in developing countries, and then how the development of the urban growth in its developing countries or developing continents in this case. Here I present you some types of graphs and tables. This one is such line graphs in which you have horizontal and vertical axis and gives you the detail about what the graphs is about. Next, you have pie chart. Usually for the pie chart, you will have the percentage. The percentage of something. It's based on what kind of the data is presented. Next one, you have like this. It's a kind of bar. It depends on the information presented. Yeah, for example, it is about the percentage of all children 5 to 14 years who work. The year is 1995. And then it is based on the continents, yeah, and all over the world. Okay, you have the information about boys and girls. It's quite complicated. I mean, it consists of many information. And for this one, it is about annual water consumption in Europe. Okay, it is presented year by year. Okay, per 10 years. And then for the practical access, you have the information about thousands of liters per capita. This is the table, yeah. It is the example of table in which it shows the internet connected computers worldwide from 1981 to 1999. It is presented based on the year, and I think it is the number. Okay. Now, sometimes it becomes more complicated when you have this kind of graphs, yeah. So, for example, this is about world carbon emission from fossil fuel burning by economic region. Here you have the horizontal information. It is presented year by year, and then you have the informations about the amounts in million tons. So you have for this color is for industrial countries, then former Eastern Bloc and developing countries, and it shows you the total emission. Right. For this one, it's also quite complicated, in which you have several color here, and each color it represents a different continents. Okay. This is quite complicated to understand. The case is you need to try to look at the table carefully, so you don't mislead about the content of the table itself. Next, what you need to consider about, the first one is you need to consider what are the units of measurement used. It is the year, the tons, or it is about the scale, or it is about the number of something. So you need to consider about the units of measurement there. The second one, what is the area or place involved? Okay, I think it's quite clear. And then the time scale involved. Is it per 5 years, per year, per 10 years, or else? And then what is the purpose of the graphs or table? It is only to show certain data, or it has a further purpose. You can consider about that, and you can write it down in your graphs. Again, don't too much expose about your own opinion. Okay, but you can add it there in case you are really sure that it is true, valid, and it is good enough to be added to your writings. Okay, now we are going to our topic about writing about graphs and table. Usually, these three terms become our concern. The first one is introductory expressions, and then about the type expression and terms of measurement. Let's see here. Okay, here I would like to give you some idea about how to make the introductory expression. The first one, you can simply say this one. This graph shows blah blah blah. This is the simplest one, but usually it is mentioned in the question. If you use this one, you are about to rewrite what has been mentioned in the question. But again, this is the simple way to start. The second one, there was a sharp increase in the population of Alia in the 20th century. There was a sharp increase, okay? Here it means that you are focusing on the significance. What is the significance or the most important information from the tables? You can make it based on your point of view. And then this is another way. By combining number 1 and number 2, you can say the graph shows that there was a sharp increase in the population of Alia in the 20th century. So this one is, I suggest you to use this kind of introductory expressions. Next, there are some some options that you can choose. For example, this one, I would like to match these two columns. Yeah, the first one you can say this graph shows or indicates that that the population of Alia grew in the 20th century. You can see that it has verb. Yeah, verb here shows or indicates that you can add subordinate clause by using that here. Next one, you can also directly use the noun after verbs without using that. So it will be the graph shows or indicates the growth in the size of the population of Alia. Next one, it is clear from the table that, because it is it is clear from the table that you should use that there, because if you don't use that, you will have double double verb, double subject and double verb there. You can also it can be seen from the graphs that again, if it has subject and verb, I suggest you to always use that here. It is clear, it can be seen, so you can follow by that here. And then as next one, from the graph it is clear that. Next, as the table shows, the population of Alia grew in the 20th century. For the option C, it has its own verb here. So it's independent clause, right? And then this is only a phrase. As the table shows, comma means that you can have an independent clause here. The population of Alia grew in the 20th century. Next, as can be seen from the graphs, the population of Alia grew in the 20th century. You can also have number 6, as is shown or illustrated by the graphs, the population blah blah blah. So if you have comma like this, you can directly follow it by independent clause. Those are some options you can use for your introduction paragraph. Please avoid to write according to the graphs. Just say that the graph shows, from the graphs we can see blah blah blah, but try to avoid writing according to the graphs. And then using grammar rules you are not familiar, because this is a test. Make sure that if you are not really sure to use a certain grammar rules, please avoid that. Just use a simple but understandable but correct sentences. Simple but correct sentences is more safer for you. Then avoid to use the words present. This is the tips from the IELTS book that I got. Better you use like shows. Then about the time expressions, you can have this one simply in 1999 there was a significant increase of blah blah blah. For the first 6 months, right? Then again, between blah blah and blah blah blah, or you can simply use like this. This is for the time expressions. You can say during the first 6 months, right? and then before 1960 or after 1960. Can also use from to, until, or simply you can use like this, yeah. What is it? Dash. Or August to November, or August until November. Then by, you can use also by the late 19th century, since 19th century, and the other. So these are the time expression that you can use. Now, but the time says, so your graphs, when you are writing about graphs or table, you are working with so many different sentences. It is based on your writings. You can simply use only simple past tense. You can use simple present tense, or you can use present tense. It depends on your style. Let's see some of the use of the tenses here. For example, you can simply use past tense. The production of sheep and goat meat remained almost unchanged, for example. Then it can be past perfect. It can be also present perfect if it is still relates with current condition. Yeah. So the use of the internet has risen enormously since in the 1990s till now. So you use present perfect. Or you can also use present tense. For example, the graph shows blah blah blah. Okay, yeah. So using the tenses itself, it really depends on your sentences. If you mention the years, for example, and it happens in the past, so you're gonna have past tense. But if you are talking about something that has started in the past, but it still relates with current conditions, so you use present perfect. Then when you are talking about some things that might be happening in the future, or sometimes that is happening right now, you can use the present tense. So it can be varied. These are the expression of the measurement. Here I give you some choices, but usually these two words are commonly used. Yeah, the amount and the number. The amount is for countable nouns, and the number is for countable nouns. These are the two expressions of measurement that we usually use. Okay, class. Then here I give you an example of writing about the electricity generation in Australia by fuel type. The year is 1996 till 1997. You have some types of fuel here: oil, brown coal, gas, black coal, and hydro. And you have the percentage here. Okay. Then you can see the example. This is the example. It is clear from the pie chart that in 1996 till 1997, by far the greatest proportion of electricity was generated by oil at 59%. Less than half as much, namely 26%, was produced from brown coal, black coal, and gas together accounted for another 15% of generation, leaving hydropower at only 0.3%. In other words, virtually 100% of electricity generation in Australia at the time came from fossil fuels, and only the insignificant amounts of 0.3 came from renewable energy resources. So from this paragraph, you can see that the writer is simply presented the pie chart in numbers, and he also give additional information, right? Additional information that is not mentioned in the pie chart, but it is quite true, and it is very good to be added here. Okay, this is the example, and now this is your turn To try to write a description of the pie chart, make it around minimum 50 words. Okay, like the previous meeting, I have said that you want to make it in a Google Drive and you can share the link to me. Make it based on your name, yeah, make your own folder there. Okay, class, that is all about our writing class today. If you still have anything to discuss or any question, you can directly go to our group and discuss it together. Thank you so much and see you in the next meeting. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.